Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you, Carly, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you guys for being here. This is TGIF, or the Green Initiative Fund's first info session about the fall mini grants. And yeah, we're so excited to have you guys here. So you can turn to the next slide. Yeah, I just want to start off with a quick land acknowledgement. So we recognize that UC Berkeley sits on the territory of the Huichin ancestral unceded land of the Chochenyo speaking Ohlone people. This is just a gentle reminder to pay your Shuni land tax to the Sogo Ria Te Land Trust, community-based organization run by Ohlone and Indigenous women that is working to rematriate the land back to people. And we can switch to the next slide. Awesome. Yeah, so we kind of are started with the introductions. We just do this more formally. We are the part of the TGIF team, and we can just say a little bit about ourselves. My name is Tiffany. I use the pronoun she, her, and I am a program associate. And I can pass it off to Carly since you kind of started with the introduction, just to give a short one.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Carly Baker. I use she, they pronouns. I am the TGIF manager, so I'm a professional staff person working with my wonderful student team. But if you have any questions about funding and the money side of things, I'm probably the person to help you. I'll pass it on to Josh.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh. I use he and they programs, and I'm one of the program associates. So I'm one of TGIF's student staff. Pass it to Taylor.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor. I use she, her pronouns, and I am also a TGIF program associate.
Awesome. Okay. And yeah, it says that you can put in the chat how you heard about our info session. You could also just introduce yourself in the chat too, or say how you're doing today. That'd be lovely. And we can switch to the next slide. Okay, perfect. This is the agenda for today. First of all, we're going to introduce what is the Green Initiative Fund, who are we, what is our program history and our legacy. Part two will be about the fall and spring grant cycles and their differences. Then about the fall timeline and what you need to submit, the whole application process and the scoring rubric. And then the third part is going to be some application advice, going into more detail about the environmental justice component and the fiscal sponsorship / how you can get the money after the grant. And then just more post-funding specifics. Okay, perfect. Oh, I see someone put in the chat. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so what is TGIF? The Green Initiative Fund was created as a student fee referendum in 2007, and it was renewed in 2016 for 10 years. We provide funding via grants for projects that improve and support Berkeley's sustainability efforts. As we said before, we're a student fee fund, so $9 per student per semester funds our grants entirely. And we allocate these funds to projects that promote sustainable modes of transportation, increase energy, water efficiency, restore habitat, et cetera, among a ton of other things that help, reduce the impact created by Berkeley. Awesome, and I think I can pass it over to Josh for the next slide.
So I'll just go over some of the different projects that TGIF funds. We fund a wide variety of different projects. Some of the more I suppose well-publicized ones include, for instance, the Student Cooperative, the Leaflet, which is a CERC publication, great environmental publication, the Berkeley Student Food Collective. Hopefully some of you have stopped by the campus grocery store. And also, if any of you have ever seen all the different compost bins that are throughout campus, those were funded through TGIF money as well, which is to say student funds. Next slide. This is more of a general overview of what TGIF has done since our inception in 2008. We funded almost $3.5 million worth of funds to various projects. Over 290 different projects have been funded. And of those projects, that includes funding for over 400 student internships. So we're more than willing to pay for any sort of work or research that students want to be doing. Next slide has a little bit about project logistics. In general, as long as you're affiliated with the university, whether you are student, staff, or faculty, you are more than welcome to apply. All these projects must address sustainability on campus in some capacity, bringing the benefits of student fees directly to campus. They require some sort of outreach or educational aspect, particularly again towards the students who are paying into this fund, whether undergraduate or graduate. And you must have some sort of quantitative or qualitative metric. This sounds honestly a lot more intimidating than it actually is. All we're really asking is something that you can point to show that you have had an impact on campus. And if you're having a little bit of trouble thinking of that, we're always available to help you brainstorm and figure out how exactly you can demonstrate your impact. The most important part, however, is for every single project, you need a financial agent, which is either a campus department or a CalLink student organization, registered student organization to house the funds. We absolutely cannot just directly give someone money to their bank account. There needs to be some sort of financial agent to help facilitate and manage all of these funds. Next slide, please. So we have a couple grant cycles. The first one is the fall mini grant cycle. This is the one that we're currently in. All of these, the upward cap, you can ask for a maximum of $5,000. There's only a single application phase and there's no abstract or anything like that. So that's hopefully what you all are here to learn about. The spring grant cycle is a little more extensive. As the name suggests, this is during the spring, so next semester. These are, we say they can exceed $5,000, which means that we have a wide variance between $6,000 to $7,000 on the lower end. And I believe our record grant right now is somewhere around $120,000. But that being said, the majority of it averages around $20,000 to $25,000. This has a two-step process, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the spring semester once that gets started. But in case you're here and you're thinking about some larger project, there's an abstract phase, which is just a brief summary of your project and what sort of impact you want to see. And if the committee is excited enough by your abstract, they'll invite you back to complete an application. However, with the fall cycle, which is what we're in right now, all it is you submit your application, it goes directly to the committee to be voted on and hopefully funded. Next slide. So the fall grant process, we've got a few different steps. The first one, brainstorm. Hopefully all of you by now have some sort of inkling of what sort of project you want funded, if not something more than that. One thing that we really encourage you to consider is its environmental justice aspect. We'll talk a little bit more about this later on in the presentation, but in short, consider whether or not this project is addressing some form of environmental injustice or creating environmental justice within campus as well. Also, please do consider how it directly or indirectly impacts the student and faculty of UC Berkeley, the campus community as a whole. That's something that the committee is really, really strongly focused on. And so that's something that you want to really consider early on in the process. Next step is the grant application writing itself. The info session is a great first step. We also offer resources individually to help with the writing process. We also have previously funded projects as application examples. You can find those on our website. The key step right here is to get your necessary approvals, particularly for financial agents and sponsoring organizations. There's a question in chat about an educational program. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to there, but if it is either run in any way through a campus department or associated with a campus department or otherwise associated with a registered student organization, you can use either of those as your financial sponsoring agent. The other sort of approvals that you would need, functionally think through the creation of your project. Who do you need to get okays from in order to continue? So for instance, if you want to do something with food waste, you would need to talk with Cal Dining and probably the housing and dining sustainability advocates as well. Make sure that they're in the loop and that they're okay with what you want to do. Same thing if you want to build something on campus, you need to be talking with facility service. And hopefully once you've got all of those applications written out, once you've got all of those approvals signed, your final application is due. This is going to be due on October 21st, 5 p.m. We have three parts. The major one is the application. There's an example metric spreadsheet just to kind of get you thinking about how you're going to be collecting your impact. And of course, all of the different approvals that you may or may not need to carry out your project. And then I will pass it off to Taylor to continue with the presentation.
Great, thanks, Josh. We're going to be talking about next what makes a project stand out, or some of the criteria that the committee considers when we're looking at applications. First being some kind of environmental justice or social justice component. Basically, how can your project better serve underrepresented or otherwise marginalized communities? I'm going to talk about this more in a couple slides, but we will move to the other components for now. Secondly, creativity, things that haven't been done before, things that are new on campus. If you go to our website, you can find a list of every single project we funded in the past by year, by grant cycle. If you want to know how you can differentiate your project and make it unique. If you have a project idea that's innovative, that is pushing the bounds of what sustainability can be beyond its traditional definition, we would love to see your application. Thirdly, metrics and student engagement. As was mentioned before, we're looking for projects that can clearly define what kind of qualitative and quantitative metrics they're collecting, or be able to describe the impacts of your project on the campus community. It's talked about earlier, but this is a student fee fund. So projects that have a tangible impact on the students who are contributing to this fund are really important to us. And additionally, what in the ways that your project can educate, serve, or otherwise engage with students on campus is also something to highlight in your application. And then lastly, long-term sustainability. When funds run out or after you graduate, do you have plans to institutionalize whatever project you've started? So basically looking for the long-term sustainability of the project that you're requesting funding for. Next slide, please. So committee guidelines, things that the TGIF committee is going to be looking for in your application. This is a non-inclusive list, but here are some important items to consider. Those are innovative contributions to the campus community, environmental justice or social justice, the sustainability of the project when TGIF funding ends, clarity of implementation strategy and the overall goals of your project, a well-defined and detailed budget, as well as a timeline for the entire span of the project, and how the project encourages student participation or otherwise engages with students. So again, this is not everything that we look at, but these are definitely things that we want to see in your application, things that we look for first, I guess. Yeah. Here's our timeline for fall grants. As Josh was mentioning, it's definitely a lot simpler than the spring. So this is a great time to apply if you're really new to grants. Today is obviously the first info session. Thank you for being here if you're here. And then to the end of this month, and then all the way up until the grant deadline, September through October, we have one-on-one appointments available. If you have any questions for us or you need advice on your application, such as, you know, if you're not sure what type of metrics to collect, you can come and talk to us about that. Or any other questions you have, you can sign up for one-on-ones with us on our website. There's a great quick link on the homepage that'll take you to our sort of appointment calendar. Next week is our second info session in person. You do not have to come to that. It's all the same information, but if you really want to, you can RSVP and also attend that one. And then the big deadline for fall grants is Friday, October 21st, 5 p.m. Pacific, submitting your final application on that date. So this is the environmental justice priority system we've kind of been talking about little by little this whole presentation. For starters, if you're not familiar with the concept of environmental justice, here is a definition. I will read it out. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of people of all races and incomes with respect to the development of, implementation, and enforcement of environmental initiatives, so that no group of people shoulders a disproportionate share of negative environmental impacts, and that all people have access to environmental benefits and or resources. So now that we've gone over that, the way that TGIF works is we prioritize environmental justice grant projects. So we consider them first, and whether or not your project is considered an environmental justice grant project is determined by our environmental justice at large committee member who looks through all the projects and determines which ones have an environmental justice component. To clarify, we are prioritizing environmental justice projects, but absolutely no penalty if you do not have an environmental justice component to your project. You will not be penalized in any way. It's just a priority system for projects that do have that aspect. And then post-funding sort of next steps, if you do get funding for your project, these are some of our expectations. The first is to attend a once per semester it says in person, but I think we'll probably be doing a hybrid or maybe have remote options as well. Check-ins with TGIF staff, so that's us, every semester until the completion of your project. Really simple, just once per semester to see where you're at, if plans have changed, how much of your budget you've used, if you have questions for us, that type of thing. Secondly, submitting all of your project metrics, so all of the data that you've collected on how your project impacted the campus community, submitting that to us, as well as a final project report and final poster to summarize the impact of your project.
All right, so just a quick recap of all of the things we've talked about. This has been a lot of information, but all of this information is available in quite a variety of places, including our website, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the really important things that you need to do is to gather approvals from your sponsoring organization, fiscal agent, so that is a campus department or a registered student organization. If you have questions about, does this person count? Does this count? Please ask us. This is also really important in what we had talked about earlier in terms of the sustainability of the project. We want to make sure that there's someone on campus that is going to that's going to have ownership of this project once you leave. So that's really important. Identifying potential project metrics. As Josh said, we do include the project metrics spreadsheet. It's not an exhaustive list, but it is some of the things that many groups do measure during their project. Reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the process. This is a program that is constantly shifting and changing. And we want to make sure that all of you have the best project that the committee will look at. And we want everyone to have as much help and support from us as they can. So that's what we are here for. And then, of course, you need to submit it. After you submit in October 21st, the TGIF committee will be meeting and they will be deciding. And then you will have your decision in early November with funds dispersed by the end of the fall semester. The application. So you can find our application on our website, tgif.berkeley.edu. If you have trouble finding us, we also have our social media and email on here. And our TGIF website is a really great place to find a lot of information about different opportunities for not only this grant, our committee, as well as our funded projects, but also resources for other grant opportunities. Maybe you talk to us and you realize, I don't think that TGIF fits for my project. We do try to collect as many other opportunities for projects to get funding from other sources as possible, including the TGIF CIRC Eco Fund. This is a smaller grant program that funds projects around $300. So if you are a part of a student organization or a decal and you're looking for supplies, the Eco Fund might be a better spot. That is a rolling application. So it is open right now and will be open through December and then opening back up in the spring. So that just is a resource for folks throughout the entire school year. And then on our website, we also include external funding resources. And I'm more than happy to go in a little bit more detail about what those are if people are interested. And again, we really want you to ask us questions. So we've included all of our contact information below. You can check our website to create an appointment with one of us, as well as just come and visit in CIRC, the department in which we're housed, which is located in B North. All right, I will go back to that, and it is time for questions. So if you are, if you have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat or just raise your hand. I will go ahead and end the screen share so that we can see you all. Sorry, one second. Technical difficulties here. Here we go. All right, so let's go back up. Gabriel, did we answer your question about an exclusively educational program? All right, would you be able to expand on who the faculty needs to be when handling finances for RSOs? Do we need to get faculty sponsored if we are already ASUC sponsored? That's a great question. Does anyone want to take that one, or I can take a stab at it? Oh, it looks like Josh already answered it. Sorry, I just did not see that. So yes, as Josh said, if you are an RSO, you don't need a faculty campus department sponsor. You are your own fiscal agent, but if you are trying to work within other departments, you will want to get them to be on board. And it looks like Josh answered Ariel's question, which was about if you are an RSO, but without ASUC sponsorship, are you able to do this? And yes, you just need to have someone that has access through CalLink, because if you are not a faculty department, we have to have some Berkeley institution to be able to give the money to you. So as long as you have access to CalLink, you should be good. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, I really encourage you to schedule a one-on-one with one of our staff. It's a really great opportunity to get to learn more about the process, and we really can help you refine your project descriptions and give you more information about what it is that the committee is looking for. So we are a resource. We have appointments multiple times a week until the application closes. So please go ahead and make that. And thank you all again.